And I want to make sure everybody has a little postcard like this. If you don't, please raise your hand, and I think Phyllis will be able to hand one out to you. Is anybody missing one of these? Okay, that's real important because I do not have a CD/DVD in your handout, but what I do have for you is a place for you to download the handouts. And that's in white on your card because that's a lot of text for somebody to try and copy off the screen. So let's take a little bit of a look at what I've got up here. Anybody familiar with these little graphics here? These are called quick reference. If you have a phone that's kind of smart and does scanning barcodes, you can actually scan these items and it will take you directly to the website. In this particular case, I'm going to click on this. And with a little bit of luck and technology here, it's going to take you to the place where the handout is for this particular presentation. So you'll see two PDFs here. The first one is the handout secure.pdf. You can go ahead and download that when you get back home, or if you've got something right now like an iPad or an iPhone or whatever, you can download it there. And then here's another thing you might be interested in later on in the session. I'm going to be talking about infrared seminars that I put on. But let's start here with this handout. And it'll take a minute for it to load because it's not terribly fast right now. But what I want to go ahead and impress upon you is that as I go through this presentation, I have hyperlinks embedded into the PDF that you just saw me go to a particular website and look at stuff. The reason why you want to get an online copy or download this PDF is the same hyperlinks are in that document. So as I pop to different websites and try and show you different things that are out there by different products where people have gone ahead and take the time to put marketing out there and tell you something about the products that they have, you'll be able to do that yourself when you get the online copy of the PDF. So, my topic today is going to be on non-destructive testing. We're going to cover a few different items, not just looking at fiberglass boats or steel and stuff like that, but we're also going to give you a little bit of an overview on non-destructive technology, period, in terms of electrical systems, mechanical systems, and structural systems. The benefits of doing non-destructive. Well, you know, a lot of us actually do some pre-purchase surveys out there, and we don't particularly, or at least let me put it this way, I don't particularly like to go ahead and do a lot of destructive testing because I'm not going to pay for it if it breaks. So what is happening here is that doing non-destructive gives you the benefit of doing something beyond unaided visual inspection. It enhances your senses and gives you maybe a better set of eyes and ears. But please, please, please don't believe that all these non-destructive testing equipment and things that are coming out on the market are your only sets of eyes and ears. Let common sense dictate. So if you see something that looks a little strange when you're doing non-destructive testing, but it just doesn't make sense logically, don't throw logic out to the wind and start doing things by non-destructive alone. Because the cons to this of using non-destructive testing is that, yeah, it's beyond your unaided visual inspection. And you know what? You might need to go ahead and look at your contracts when you're doing pre-purchase inspections and things along those lines, and look at your scope of services. When we're doing work, we don't really want to creep beyond what we're telling the client that we're doing. And one of those things, at least in my contract, is, man, if I can't see it, how do you expect me to tell you about it? Well, the difference with non-destructive testing, if you're looking at audio gauging, if you're looking at infrared, and we're also going to be talking about airborne, these are little things that are beyond what people would normally see. So I had a really excellent attorney who said, Jack, you have an excellent pedigree, but you need to be careful because most of your documentation out there says, can't see it, not responsible. you're starting to get into the realm of things that people normally don't see. You might be responsible. Be careful. Last thing, most non-destructive methods, in fact I haven't seen one yet, you can actually say, okay, you know, this is what we should do. You have to actually do some non-destructive testing afterwards. So say, for example, you were doing audio gauging and you saw a thin metal plate. You know, how are you going to prove it? You're going to have to cut it. If you're doing infrared stuff, if you see something that's suspicious, how are you going to prove it? You're going to have to cut it. The only difference is you're a little bit more intelligent as to where you're going to cut instead of doing Swiss hole random cuts all over the place. So keep in mind that even though you're doing fancy equipment and using nice technology to give people ideas of what's going on, you can't get away from actually cutting into something. So the way this presentation's, and we're going to be doing 3 vignettes, I guess, or vignettes that you may call it. We're going to talk a little bit about theory. Then we're going to have some discussion. And during this discussion, you know, everybody has taken a lot of time to get away from their businesses, spend money, and come here. So I really expect you all to be what we call selfish learners. You got a question? Ask it. But for the benefit of the other people here in the class, tell us your name. Your SAM's designator. Are you doing commercial or doing yachts and small craft? And maybe the geographical area that you service. Now this is going to go off a few times because I actually have the timer going on to try and pace myself through this. So I guess don't want anybody else having their cell phones go off, but you'll hear mine go off quite a bit. We are in a nice tight area, and the plan was to go ahead and do demonstrations. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is we're going to take 10-minute breaks. We've got 120 minutes to try and cover 3 different areas just to whet your appetite. And during those breaks, people who are actually interested in some of this stuff come up and take a look. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is looking at audio gauging. Then we'll take a little bit of a break. Then we're going to look at airborne technology. Then we'll take a little bit of a break. And the last thing we'll do is we'll wrap it up with infrared. So, methodologies of non-destructive testing. A lot of them involve an art and a science. When I talk about art, I'm talking a lot about infrared right now because it's taking the right image at the right time. You can't just go out and take an image unless you're shooting electrical panels, unless you're shooting machinery that generate their own heat. The other things that are using either by warming stuff to look at boats or looking at the sunlight to come and warm the boats during periods of the time, that's an art. Interpretation of a lot of the non-destructive technologies is an art. That's where your common experience that you've done not doing non-destructive testing comes into play. You see something and you say, yeah, it supports exactly what I'm thinking. But the non-destructive part about all this stuff is it's a lot easier to convince your client, to convince other people that this is what's really happening. You can talk all you want, but sometimes if you show them an image, if you show them something that an instrument generates, all of a sudden they believe you. We're going to talk about some different types of non-destructive tests. One is acoustic emission. That's going to be that airborne technology. Well, there's also electromagnetic things that happen that you can do with non-destructive testing. And what you're going to see here is the items up there that actually do not gray out. I'm looking for my pointer right now. I've misplaced it. But anyway, up here where it says acoustic emission, see how that stayed black and the rest of it went red? These are the things that we're going to cover during this session. So you have things with lasers. You can do leak testing, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today. We've all heard of liquid penetrance and oil analysis or lubrication analysis, magnetic particles, neutron radiography, radiographic stuff, thermal imaging, yes, we're going to talk about that at the very end. Ultrasonic, yes, we're going to talk about that in the very beginning. That's going to be the audio gauging. Vibration analysis And of course visual, which is what most of us are doing. We're using our senses. What can we see? What can we smell? What can we feel? When we're lending our clients our eyes and our experience. So today's topic is going to be methodologies that complement each other. That's why I chose to look at the audio gauging and the airborne technology and the infrared. Okay, so the audio gauge up here on the left-hand side of the table, or your right, is a picture of the Cygnus 3 data logger, along with a probe in an area where it's measuring metal thickness. The next thing we're going to do is look at airborne leak detection. That's acoustic emission. The apparatus that I'm actually going to be showing you is something that takes takes frequencies that we don't hear and converts it through heterodyning down to a frequency that we can hear. So to tell you or show you how sensitive this is, you can't hear my hand right now. Can you hear that? Let me go ahead and turn this up just a little bit louder. Now, when I took a course in this, the instructor actually was, I guess he had long eyelashes, who knows, but he could blink his eyes and you could actually hear it. So this is called airborne emission, this is airborne ultrasound. It's great for leak detection. There's lots of different things that the airborne can be used for. The thing that I'm going to be showing you today is putting in a tone generator that actually creates a sound. So you can see a red light blinking here, but you can't hear anything. And now you can. So, if you happen to be looking at a boat or a steel hatch or things along those lines that you want to make sure that they're not leaking, that they're actually weather tight or waterproof, this is the type of technology that you can use. A lot of times when we're doing surveys pre-purchase, say for example the guy likes what you've done, but you may get a comment later on and said, man, I went offshore and that thing leaked like a sieve, and it was miserable. I did a 10-day trip and I had salt water coming in and it was just horrible. So what I'm saying is that that simple test with a leak detection would at least let you know what could be repaired before that guy left from shore. The other thing is it helps you is that if you're doing testing either with your moisture meter or percussion sounding or thermal imaging, just to go ahead and put a tone generator inside the boat and walk around and check the windows, that's also going to give you an idea that, maybe there's a place where water's leaking around that porthole. Maybe you should make sure that that moisture meter is checking there to see if any water has gotten into the core.
Jack?
Yes?
Jack, Gary Frankovich from Jacksonville. How big an area can your tone generator, can you put it, you have to move it from cabin to cabin in a boat?
Yes, the question was, how sensitive is it? Do you have to move from cabin to cabin? Actually, I do, and I try and get the client involved. I show them, I do the dog and pony show, I show them what it does, and says, okay, would you like to get on the inside and we'll walk around? So you can actually I can actually set the tone generator up here, and you could come in through the back door on the right-hand side, Gary, and through a different process, you could actually find it all the way up here. But because the sound would get it, dampened by fabrics and things along those lines, it's best actually to get the client involved as much as you can and have them carry that around. Yes, Gary?
Can you use it through ceilings and linings, like to find leaks, hull deck joints and stuff?
You can, definitely. You can find it through hull deck joints. A lot of people will actually use it when something sinks. They'll go ahead and put the tone generator inside and they'll listen on the outside. In commercial industry, it might be a steel barge that went down. And they'll put a tone generator inside, hang it, and walk around the outside and look to hear the leak. All right, okay, so we're talking about thermal imaging now. And you're actually going to have, excuse me, a little bit of a treat today, because not only did I bring the P65 that I use, but I also have the latest and greatest from FLIR that actually links to an iPad, where you can actually do adjusting and see the image through Bluetooth, excuse me, through Wi-Fi technology to an iPad. For those of us who have done infrared, and you've got the client perched on your shoulder all the time, gee, what's that? And they're pointing and stuff like that. You kind of hand them the iPad and say, look, have a look and see what I'm doing. And it works really wonderful. It's new technology from FLIR. It still has a few bugs in it, but not enough bugs to discount it.